after my 3-day hike through the rain in this simulated emergency, here is what I learned. First off, the more you know, the less you need to bring. The pack that I had was a little over 30 pounds. And with so much rain during the simulated emergency and the month of May, my biggest focus was just staying dry. So I really didn't get a good opportunity to really use a lot of the things in the pack. This specific simulation called for me to leave my car, but I would fight tooth and nail leaving a vehicle. It is a great form of shelter and protection, especially in bad weather. Moving on foot is slow and hard work. I mean, if you're in good shape, you might be knocking down maybe 2 to 4 miles an hour. I mean, think about that. If you're in a car, you can go to 2 or 4 miles in a matter of seconds. So it's not a practical form of transport. Now, if the emergency was bigger or there was life-threatening things, yes, keep on moving. But if it's not and you're kind of out of the storm, I probably would just stay in place. All right, so I do think there is a benefit in having, let's say, a large go bag in the back of your vehicle if your vehicle allows that space. And the reason I say that is, in an emergency, I would almost use that as a store, a shopping cart of, hey, you know what? This situation, I need these things, but in this situation, I need these things. And you really might not know what you need because of the situation. So on this one, I might have, in hindsight, what I might have done is strip the pack with a lot of the stuff, go light, try to move, make sure I had things to start a fire and for shelter. But other than that, I probably would hike as light as possible because distance was a priority in this simulation. I did not do that. I hiked with almost everything on my back. You've probably heard this saying, store what you eat and eat what you store. And I think with survival skills, there should be a similar situation. So imagine if you're vacationing and you're just on a picnic. If you have a tarp in your car, set it up. It could easily be a sunshade. It could easily guard you from rain if all of a sudden the skies open up. And you get an opportunity to learn how to set up a tarp. Maybe you've never done it. Or maybe by setting it up more frequently, you'll get a lot faster and more confident with the setup, with the knots. So I think it's a good idea to just consistently practice in the little things that you do. Now, personally, I love hammocks. And I think I would put like one of those cheap hammocks that you might see at Walmart or Costco, maybe like 20 bucks. They're kind of like a lounging hammock. And truthfully, in the same situation as that tarp, I think it'd be great. You're out on a picnic, set up a hammock. Who does not like chilling out in a hammock? And it'll give you that opportunity to get comfortable with the setup. I love hammocks. They get you off the ground. They keep you dry. There are downsides to them. If it is cold out, it is hard to keep your back or any part of your body really warm because you're just exposed to so much air. So just keep that in mind. So more test and practice is key. I'm lucky. I'm around the farm, so I have a lot of opportunities to practice certain things, be it my knots or setting up tarps. Another thing is, I think it's important to check your gear. It's going to be different for everybody, but I think personally for myself, I'm going to start doing a quarterly gear check. Recently, I shook out my personal EDC bag, and it was just destroyed from just different things happening over the last couple months. So I'm going to incorporate a quarterly gear check. I'm going to go get my Excel file out of what gear should be in each of the bags, make sure everything is good, make sure expiration date on foods haven't expired. So that's something that I've really learned from this drill. And at the same time, during that quarterly, I think personally, I'm going to do little walkabouts around the vehicle. I do most of the maintenance of my vehicles already, so I already am in tune with what each of the vehicles need, but just going through, making sure the lights work, making sure that there's no issues with the tires. So that's just going to be incorporated into my gear check. During the first night, I had some major issues with cramps. So it was probably a combination of just exhaustion and probably electrolytes. So a lesson learned from me is inside our bags is a metal canteen, and it's fairly large. And what I think I'm going to do now is stuff in there a life straw, a Camelback, and probably some kind of electrolyte powder. So that way, it's not really taking up any space. I'll open up that cantina, deploy those things, and really be set up. It'll be really good. Since it was raining, I believe that I probably wasn't drinking enough. It's one of those things, when it's cold out or when it's raining out, sometimes you get in a bad habit and you don't drink enough. Now keep in mind, doesn't mean you need to overhydrate yourself. There is no data to show that you need to drink 8 glasses of water every day. Every person is different. But keep in mind, in a survival situation where you're really not eating much, you're not getting fluids from a lot of the different sources where you might in a normal day-to-day. You eat an apple, I mean, you're getting fluids from that. And that's not happening in an emergency situation. So just keep that in check. Try to make sure that you and the people around you are drinking enough. All right, the shelter that was in this bag was a 5x7 tarp. It was small, but considering how bad the weather was, I for the most part stayed dry. And if it wasn't for the cramps, I probably wouldn't have shot my legs outside of that tarp. So it might not be a bad thing. Personally, I'm a more fan of a tarp around 10x10. Yes, it can be big, but it can be a lifesaver. The other thing is this tarp was blue. Now, the space blanket in there was a solid heavy-duty space blanket that's like tinfoil on one side, and it was a red or an orange bright material on the other. So if you needed something to signal with, I think the space blanket being orange would be a perfect solution. So I would more camo or brown or black the tarp. So that way if you needed to be stealth, you had that option. So, and I didn't. So something in the back of my head when I was trying to sleep was, oh, is someone gonna find me? So I think I would have felt a lot more comfortable with a camo tarp. So personally, in my bag, I have a camo tarp. All right, the shoes that I had on were the shoes that I was wearing that day. I wanted this to be like a real simulated emergency. I didn't want to be prepped for it. So I was wearing just my trail runners. They are lightweight, my feet got wet, and truthfully, with 3 days of rain, everything is gonna get wet. You're not going to stay dry. So you're just gonna have to push through it and manage that and make sure that you don't hurt yourself. Directions and route finding. I'm lucky. I have experience as an adventure racer, and on those adventure racing teams, I typically was the nav. And how we did it in our teams is, so we had a team of 4, and each person had a task. I would be the nav. I would be the last person typically in the group. And the first person would possibly be the eyes. Then we have another person that might be the ears, and another person that's really focusing on pace. And that teamwork really helps so that the nav can really focus on the map and what's going on. So the person in the front might be calling out, hey, I see that the trail is going up to the left. We're going to be rising in elevation. And the nav can look at this, perfect, exactly what's going on. The ears might say, hey, I hear trains over to our right. And the nav goes, perfect. There's train tracks on the map, I see that. So those different things. The pace setter, they'll be the person that knows best their pace. And they'll be calling out, hey, we've gone 1/4 of a mile, or we've gone a kilometer. So, and the nav will just keep on ticking off. One little trick that I do is, on the map, I'll fold it up and I'll keep my thumb at the location that we were last known. So that way when I'm running or walking or I'm doing things, I don't need to find that location again. And I'm always orientating the map the way that we are going. Now, keeping all that in mind, I was on the Appalachian Trail. There is white blazes all over the place. And unless you get blindfolded and spun around and you do not have a compass, it would be hard to get lost. Now, if you're hiking at night, or if you're tired, or if you haven't had enough food or dehydrated, I am sure that you would get yourself twisted up. So, just keep that in mind and be safe. If you're a prepper or a survivalist and you are not familiar with how to read or orientate or doing any kind of orienteering, stop this video, go to Google, and see if there's any orienteering clubs in your area. They are great. And at least us Westerners, we don't do that. I mean, in Europe, it is a hobby and a lot of people do orienteering. It is a fun little thing, and usually every club has so many different levels at one of their events that there will be something for you no matter what your skill set. So, to wrap up, practice more. The more you know, the less you need to bring. I took a pack into the woods that I had never seen before. I got the pack the night before the simulated emergency. That's not a good idea. But this was an experiment. This was an experiment, and I would not recommend this on anyone. And the reason I bring up this point is, if you are making a bug out bag or a get home bag for a significant other, and they're not participating in what goes in that bag and knows why these things are going in that bag, they're not going to have buy-in. So there might be something like your significant other would really appreciate a Snickers bar. And I would not piss in their Cheerios about why they shouldn't have a Snickers bar in there. If they want a Snickers bar, put a Snickers bar in that bag. Hell, yes, it's going to expire faster. Put it in your quarterly review with your gear and just swap it out. It doesn't matter. But in an emergency situation, that Snickers bar could be a great boost. In a lot of my bags, I put things like gum and lifesavers. Why? Because if it is a shitty situation and I have a fruit flavored lifesaver, that might just be a little bit of a pick me up to get me through a little bit of a shitty situation. So really, if you are making a bag for somebody else, make sure they have buy-in and some say about what goes in that bag. And don't shoot them down about what they want in that bag. So everybody, this is Jurgen, the Badass Homesteader. I just want to say, be prepared, be curious, and most of all, be responsible. Peace. Thanks for checking out my videos on my simulated emergency. Next up, check out my video from day one, or check out the video where I drank my own piss.